For anyone who cares about freedom in the United States, it's a pretty exciting time to be alive, not just in the bigger picture, but specifically in what we are experiencing right now as the war on drugs comes to an end. I would say we're somewhere in the middle of the end of the war on drugs. Maybe the start of legalization of medical marijuana might have been the beginning of the end, but clearly the paradigm is shifting. People are realizing not just that these policies are destructive in so many obvious ways, but that there's a fundamental human right to decide what you put in your own body. And when you forcefully, violently, with government interfere with that right, there are negative consequences. And now we see a particularly bright light in this debate, in this conversation, as it is shifting from none other than a federal appeals court judge in the Court of Appeals for the 7th District, Richard Posner, who wrote in the New Republic, the sale and possession of marijuana are en route to being decriminalized, and I am inclined to think that cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, LSD, and the rest of the illegal drugs should be decriminalized as well, though not deregulated. By the way, this is a Ronald Reagan appointee. Really big news that this is coming out. Very exciting for anybody who understands that when you win over a guy like this, who was not just one of the worst, I would say, criminal benefactors of the war on drugs. As a war profiteer, he's going like, yeah, guys, I don't think this is such a good idea anymore. Huge. I mean, if you're a judge, a federal judge, you're putting people away for the victimless crimes of dealing in substances that people have demonized through politics. And if it wasn't for this paradigm, if it wasn't for that a critical mass of the American people bought into this, politicians wouldn't be able to get up and campaign and be like, drugs are bad, okay? And therefore we need to make them illegal, and therefore we're going to have all this and pretend to ignore the consequences, when you know that while you have that paradigm, the reason that paradigm has been so entrenched and so much longer than necessary is because of the specific special interests, the pharmaceutical lobby, the alcohol, the law enforcement, prisons. I mean, all of these lobbies, alcohol, tobacco, that want to keep their drug monopolies more exclusive. You would think the caffeine lobby would step up too, but I suppose marijuana is not really a threat to them. So, but everybody who has an interest in this is, lobbying politicians and making sure that marijuana, among all these other drugs as well, stays illegal. And one of the things that I really just realized recently about this is that all of these, harder drugs are much more akin to pharmaceuticals and people being able to take charge of their state of mind, like the way that they do abusing pain pills or antidepressants or things like that. These more effective tools are taken away from people. And there's a significant gap created in terms of what we should be serving people with in terms of this fundamental human right to be able to use chemicals to control your mental function. I mean, it's really not that complicated. But I'm excited to hear this. This is good news. But he goes on when he says, though not deregulated, I got to go, what do you mean? They should be regulated by the FDA for safety. That's the Food and Drug Administration, like other drugs, and they should be taxed heavily like alcohol and cigarettes. And I just want to go, oh, no, wait. You started off so well. You were having such a good idea. Finish the thought. Yes, finish the thought. You believe in no justice, no freedom. No, I guess that's not really the principle behind this guy's thinking. But, what is regulation of the pharmaceutical industry? It is basically the government stepping in and saying, if you don't do it this way, if you don't meet our standards, we're going to go lock you in a cage for doing that. And the result has been what we have today with the war on drugs. The FDA and its manipulations by the pharmaceutical industry. You have, tens of millions of people who have died because illegal or unsafe drugs were stamped approved and safe to consume by the FDA, and tens of millions more who have died because life-saving drugs were kept off the market or delayed in getting to market because of the FDA. If anything, what we have now is the war on drugs is regulation. Think about it. Why is marijuana illegal? Not because they passed a law at the federal level that said marijuana is now illegal, drugs are bad, okay? No, they said, here's the schedules of drugs for the FDA to put stuff on, right? You have marijuana, Schedule 1, no medical benefit. Schedule 2, I don't know, they have like heroin and cocaine and all. It doesn't make any sense in terms of the actual health risks because it's just about what's been demonized or what represents the worst threat to the pharmaceutical industry. So what we have now is regulation. the reason you have people turning to the black market in Colorado is because the white market for marijuana is so heavily regulated that if you got to put an RFID chip in every marijuana plant and track it from when it's a clone until when it's full grown and harvested and have everything serialized because we don't feel comfortable, letting people get stoned unless they do all of this paperwork first. Well, guess what? It's going to be so much cheaper to do it on the black market that people are going to turn to that. And that's exactly what's happening in Colorado. That's what's happening with the drug trade now for pharmaceuticals. I mean, that's a multi-billion-dollar a year business here in the United States, trafficking in drugs that are technically completely legal, but they're regulated. So you need a doctor's prescription, and people are always going to find their ways around that. So he goes on. I mean, taxed heavily. Really, again, just driving people into the black market. Alcohol and cigarettes are recreational drugs too, and quite possibly more destructive of the users than the illegal drugs are. And in the case of alcohol, also of acquaintances, family members, drivers, and pedestrians. Oh, holy crap! It's about freaking time someone in some position of the drug war of authority was like, yeah, just admitted this really obvious fundamental truth. I mean, I've been saying this for years. What the hell? You can't even refer to drugs without people thinking about alcohol and tobacco in a totally separate category. It's crazy. Or even pharmaceuticals. Like the mental wall that's there, that is coming down. That's exciting. And it's so important because that mental wall is, well, if the government says it's okay, it's on this side. And if the government says it's not okay, it's on that side, as opposed to, let me use my own judgment. Let me appeal to real experts that are not subject to the same kind of corruption the government is. Finally, he writes, the revenue from a sales tax on marijuana alone would pay for a substantial chunk of the cost of our prison system. Oh, again, really, if your prison system only put people away for real crimes, you wouldn't need to commit the crime of stealing people for selling marijuana in order to pay for your corrupt system. But thank you, Judge Posner, for, I don't know, whatever courage this represents in taking one small baby step in the right direction. Remember to encrypt and back up your wallet and store your password in a safe place.
Smoke it anyway! Yo, close. Back off.